Hello, welcome to No Rest for the Vivid podcast. My name is Claire Hill, self-belief and business coach. And today I have the wonderful Laura Sinclair here that I've been spying for a while. Like I said to you, like, when can I get her on? When can I get her on? And then I saw that you had this big goal and I was like, I'll be part of that goal. So I'm really excited that you're here today, Laura. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me and helping me achieve my goal. And I cannot wait for this conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be a lush one, babe. You're over in Canada. What bit of Canada are you in?
I'm in Ontario, so I live about an hour north of Toronto for anyone that
Nice.
usually people know where that is in
Yeah, yeah,
Canada.
yeah. The beautiful part.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my team's from Canada, and I'm now thinking, what bit is she from? She's like the middle because she went in August and she had like the worst jet lag. She's like, it's the other side of the world. Like literally. I was like, oh, I can't remember where she's from. She's a legend though. So anyway, enough about that. I mean, I love Canada and I've never even been. I need to go there. I've always feel like I've got like this, like, when you feel like there's like a calling for a
Sure.
place.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to go to Canada.
I feel like the UK and Canada are like very, very linked in a lot of ways, right? We have
Yeah.
a lot of things here. There's a lot of nods. There's a lot that goes on. I mean, we're part of the Commonwealth here in Canada.
Yeah. Do you have the Queen on your money then?
We do.
Oh,
Yeah.
not the Queen. She's passed away.
She's passed, but yes, we
The
do have
King.
monarchs
The
on
monarchs.
on our money. Yeah. It's
Forgetting.
transitioning away from that a little bit though, Like certainly growing up, it was all monarchs on our money, and now we're starting to get more diversity, more Canadian stories on our money. Our money is very colorful. It is not like
Is
American money
it?
that's just green. Yeah. Like I did not know this is where we were going on this podcast.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
either.
But yeah, no, all of our bills are different colors and they all have different people on them. So
So is it like Monopoly money?
it's a little bit like Monopoly money. It's if you've ever seen Australian money, it's like very similar as far as the material. Like it's that same waterproof kind of Australian
Oh,
money.
wow.
But this is new for us. This is new like in the last, oh gosh, 15 years or so. But yeah, we have different faces. But yes, the monarchy is like very linked to Canada. I mean, I grew up, my parents, my dad's actually from Ireland. And my parents like grew up loving, like I knew all about like Diana and the Queen and like all of that. That was something I learned about all the
Yeah.
way over here in Canada. So there you go.
Oh, well, that's cool. So maybe it is all linked a little bit.
I think so.
So, like we say, we didn't know that was going to happen. Now I need to see Australian money. So, those of you who are listening, and I know you listen in Australia, can you send me a picture of your money?
Show her the money.
Just
Yes.
show me the
Show
money
Claire the
and Canada.
money.
But do you want to introduce yourself, Laura? Say
I would
like who
love
you are
to.
and what you do.
I would love to. So my name is Laura Sinclair. I am based out of Ontario, Canada, and I mentor early stage female entrepreneurs, a lot of moms. I'm a
Mm.
mom of two. I have a 7, and my son's going to be 4 in a couple of days. So I think I need to start adapting to saying I have a 7 and a 4-year old. And I have a corporate marketing background. I have a very long, twisting, turning story, which we can get into if you like, of starting my career in PR and going into marketing, social media, leaving the corporate world. I ran a brick and mortar gym for 5 years. I built a multi 7-figure nutrition coaching company, walked away from all of that, started over. And now I'm in a place where I have the absolute pleasure of being able to mentor female entrepreneurs through the early stages. And when I say early stages, I mean like up to 7 figures. The majority of my
Mm.
clients are, trying to get their first multi 6-figure year, their first 7-figure year. And it's such a fun space to play. And I do that through my podcast, through events, through mentorship. I have a mastermind. My podcast is called This Mother Means Business. I also have a community called This Mother Means Business. So really just trying to create spaces to help women entrepreneurs make more money. Because I think that the world becomes a better place when we put more money in the hands of women.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. I love that. I love all of that. It's like, you've just summarized your business story very quickly, but I would love to dive in if you wouldn't
Sure.
mind sharing your business love story and how it all began.
Yeah. So when I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. Let's just like start. There's a couple of things. I never thought I was going to be a mom, and I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. So to me, entrepreneurship meant that I needed like VC capital. I had to invent something. I needed to be like Sarah Blakely and invent
Mm.
Spanx. Like that was what you needed to do to be an entrepreneur. And so growing up, I very much just did the things that I was told I was supposed to do. So I went to school. I went to university, I got a degree, and then I was like, well, I guess I'm working for somebody else for the rest of my life. And this is how this is going to go. But I always felt really uncomfortable. Like I was always I never stayed at a job for more than like 2 or 3 years. I got bored really easily. I struggled with like process for process sake. And I always was like, why this corporate thing? Like, what are we doing, guys? Like, this isn't it. And I've always been a kid that like colored outside the lines a little bit,
Mm.
questioned a lot of things. My mom used to say, when teachers say jump to kids, most kids say how high, and your response is why? Well, why? Why would we do that? And so I always question things. And so I started my career in public relations, which was really was an interesting place to be. I learned a lot of really transferable skills. So I'm so grateful for my background in PR because there's so much around like visibility and optics that really matter that a lot of people don't have those skills when they come into
Mm.
business. And it was at a time when brands were just starting to figure out this social media thing. It was, Twitter and Facebook were the rage, like Facebook pages in your Twitter account was it. There was no Instagram at the
Mm-mm.
time. This is 2008. So,
Mhm.
and brands were really letting the interns run their social media accounts. Like people joke that it's the intern now, but most brands are paying, their social media manager hundreds of thousands of dollars every
Mm.
year. But in 2008, they weren't. They were letting the intern at the PR agency run the account, and I was the intern. And so I got this really speedy upbringing into the social media space, which was really mostly about just like time and place. I was in the right place at the right time. And so I really built my career off of building digital strategy, social media strategy for big brands. I did it on the agency side, I did it on the corporate side, and ended my corporate career running digital media for one of the biggest luxury automotive companies in the world. And the whole time, though, I was still very uncomfortable. It was like I had the
Mm.
things that I was told I was supposed to have. I
Mhm.
had the fancy car, I went to the parties, I had the access, I had the job title. I had the people messaging me being like, "Hey, can you get me a deal on a car?" Like I was that girl, I was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the girl that
yeah.
everybody wanted to know. And I was so miserable. And I had this distinct memory of coming home to my boyfriend at the time and saying like, I just want to quit my job. This
Mm.
sucks. I want to quit my job and just run a gym. But it felt so far away because I would always been into athletics my whole life and love going to the gym and love sports. I was like, man, if I could just run a gym, like screw this, this
Yeah.
corporate thing. And then fast forward, 4 or 5 years, not with that boyfriend anymore, with my now husband. But I had the opportunity to buy a gym. And so
Mm.
I left my corporate job, bought a gym and started running a brick and mortar CrossFit gym. And sort of around the same time, I also started helping a friend build her nutrition coaching company. This was in 2015. So
Mhm.
kind of at the time where like running an online business was pretty new. There weren't a
Mhm.
lot of people doing it. And so I was sort of half supporting and working in a kind of a CMO role, building this nutrition coaching business alongside my friend at the time, and then was also building my brick and mortar gym simultaneously. And gosh, there were so many lessons from that season of my life. And I'm sure we could do a whole podcast episode on that. But my relationship with that friend that was building the nutrition company soured really quickly. I was
Mm.
pretty young at the time, so I was in my 20s. I really trusted her. She was one of the people in my life that I loved the most.
Mm.
And she ended up turning around and stabbing me in the back. And we didn't have anything in writing because I trusted her so much. And that was, one of my very, very first major business mistakes. I had nothing
Mm.
in writing. I had no protection. And so I ended up having to walk away from that completely. And at the same time was building this brick and mortar gym, trying to, navigate all the emotion that came with that. And then
Yeah.
fell pregnant. And now I'm in the middle of, the day that I actually found out I was pregnant is the day that I found out that this friend was suing me for walking away from her company. And, all of these things
Oh.
that were allegedly had done, didn't do. I ended up winning. It was fine. I did nothing wrong. I literally just walked away from a situation. And so that was like a lot for me. That was sort of like my first couple of years into entrepreneurship, like everything that could have gone wrong
Mm.
did. And I learned a lot of really beautiful lessons around like obviously get everything in writing. Contracts are your friend, contracts save
Yeah.
friendships, how to stand up for myself, how to make hard decisions, how to pivot. Um, and then sort of pivoted into running a gym. In my first year of gym ownership, my daughter was born. And I did a lot of things wrong in that season of my life too, where I was learning to have to reprioritize everything, right? At that point, I was business first, business or bust. And now I have this baby and having to navigate that. And so I made a bunch of mistakes there. And then, took me about 3 years to rectify those mistakes. And then when I got to a place where my business was really running itself, it's like, okay, I'm going to have another baby. And so got pregnant. And 8 weeks later, the world shut down for 2 weeks out of an abundance of caution. And we all know the rest of
Mm.
that story,
Yeah.
pandemic. And so gyms here in Canada were under really heavy restrictions. And certainly in Ontario, Canada, which is the province I live in, had some of the toughest restrictions in the world for COVID.
Wow.
And so we were closed for about 5 or 6 months initially, maybe 5 months initially. Over that time we were closed, my son was born.
Hmm.
We lost about half of our membership because people were not coming to the gym. So why
Yeah.
would we pay for the gym membership, even though we still had, bills to pay and things to be done? And so at the end of 2020, there I was with a 3-month-old baby, a now struggling brick and mortar gym that's doing, 50% monthly what it was doing
Mm.
pre-COVID. I can no longer afford to pay my staff. I have to make the decision of, am I going back into my business with this 3-month-old baby when I had just spent the last 3 years trying to pick up the pieces from what it was like the first time with my baby, trying to run this
Wow.
business. And the answer to me was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not putting myself through that again. And
Mm.
so closed the gym at the end of 2020, sold off all the equipment. It was a great time for people who wanted to buy gym equipment because nobody could get it because,
Yeah.
shipping in was really limited at the time. And so we were able to sell the gym equipment for close to what it would have been worth if it were new. We didn't rip anybody off for the record, but people wanted the gym equipment. So we sold it off. I think by the end of it, by the time it was all said and done, I had like $40,000 in gym equipment, like sitting in the bank. And I was like, okay, got to figure something out here, kid, because you have a
Mm.
3-month-old baby. And I was not about to go back to work for somebody else. I mean, I'd been an entrepreneur at that point for 5 years,
Mm.
6 years, 6 years. And here in Canada, the standard is to get a year maternity leave. Some women
Mm.
take 18 months. And so a lot of my peers were doing that, right? If you had a baby during the pandemic here in Canada, you had a year. And there I am with a 3-month-old baby. There's not even really the infrastructure in Canada to support a woman going back to work at 3 months.
No.
There's like no daycares that are taking a 3-month-old baby. Like that's just not a thing here.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'm going to give myself 6 months to figure it out. And I knew I had a lot of skills. And I'd run a brick and mortar business. I knew the online space a little bit. I built that 7-figure nutrition coaching company. Like I understood it. And so I went with what was easiest for me at the time. And that was teaching social media to business owners because I knew what it meant to be a small business owner. I was one.
Mm.
I knew how to leverage social media in a way that was really intelligent because that's really how we took this business, right? The business that I bought was really a failing business. It was probably 6 months away from being closed, this gym. And by the time, pre-pandemic, it was making monthly what I paid for it. And that's
Mm.
largely because of my marketing skills and my ability to fill a funnel, which most small business owners kind of struggle with.
Mm.
They're great at the thing that they do and
Hmm.
sometimes terrible at actually filling the funnel, like getting people to know that they actually exist.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I started doing. I started just teaching people how to use social media for their business. And that was great. I think I made my first like $10,000 in sales in my first like week with like 35 followers. And so it was, as every new business starts with, it's always people that you kind of know that are in your world, but was able to do that. And I did that for about a year. And I was teaching people just social media, teaching small business owners how to do that. And then it was sort of like I came out of that fog, that first year postpartum with
Mm.
my son. I was like, okay, this is fun. This is cool. But there's so much more that I can do because I'm having these conversations with women. We're starting talking about, okay, we're going to do this on Instagram or this on TikTok or whatever it may be. And then we're having these whole other conversations because it's so much easier for me to say, okay, here's a strategy, Claire, XYZ, go do it.
Mm.
It's a whole other thing for most people to actually do it. So now we're having mindset
Mm.
conversations around business. And now we're having motherhood conversations because there's some realities about being a mom and an entrepreneur that come
Hmm.
up. And so about 2 years ago, I pivoted my business completely away from social media marketing, even though marketing is part of the function that I teach women, towards really being in this place where it's supporting life and business for mom entrepreneurs. And there's, 8 different areas that I look at. Marketing is one of them, social media is one of them, but it's really about, your energy and your time. Where are you delegating? How are you building team? Are you actually having fun in your life and your business? Because if you're not, like, then then things have to change. It's
Mm.
looking at our offers. What are we actually selling? It's our marketing. It's our systems. It's so much more than just it's customer experience. It's so much more than just social media. And so now I'm in a place where I get to offer that full service for women, but it's been a journey. It really has.
Mm. Oh, I was lost in that story then. That was wonderful. Don't you just love it when you just you can actually giving yourself time to listen to someone else's story and just thinking, because at certain points I was like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
totally can feel where you were coming with that. Like, but also the lessons and how much that value that you've learned gives to your clients because I mean, just a few of those, even just the friend thing, having
Oh
the
yeah.
babe, like the babe, just all of it. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
I've, what's so interesting is like we all go through hard things.
Mm,
We're all so resilient. And this is one thing that I think most of us need to give ourselves more credit for. Like we're all wildly resilient people. And I don't always give myself credit for like how crazy that story is, but I'm so grateful for all of it. To your point, like if I
mm,
hadn't have gone through what at the time felt like a really big mess, right? Like every single one of those moments felt devastating in the moment, right? Like
mm,
there was no way life could get worse. There was no rebounding. Like it was just like, in each of those moments, it was terrible, right?
mm.
Leaving my job, and my corporate job was scary, and people are always like, how did you do that? I'm like, that is the least scary thing that I did. Being
Yeah.
sued the day that finding out I was getting sued, the day that I found out that I was pregnant after I had had two miscarriages previously. That was actually one of the triggers for me walking away. Was I actually miscarried twice in
Mm,
the course of managing this toxic business relationship. And I can't, there's no real correlation like scientifically that says stress can have you have you miscarry early. But for me, I like genuinely believe that's what it was. I just had this like ping from the universe that, like, no, the reason that like your body is so stressed out right now,
yeah.
you are not in a place where you can build another life in your body. There's no way. And so one of the main reasons why I quit was actually because I miscarried twice. It was like my body saying like, you got to get out, kid. You got to go.
Mm,
And so yeah, finding out I was sued the day that I was pregnant, my lawyer said to me like the letter that he received or that I was sent was the most vicious legal document he's ever seen in his 25 years of litigation. Like it was bad. And a lot of that was just coming from this place of like the other person's emotion,
mhm.
the other person's
Yeah.
reaction. It was really just an extension of the experience that I had working there, right? And so it
Hmm.
really should come as a surprise to nobody. And that, and then losing my gym business, having to close that, people are always like, I'm so sorry. And in retrospect, all those moments now I look back and I'm like, no, it's good. It's good. It's
Yeah.
fine. Like, but at the time, if you had asked me that, in the time of
Yeah.
finding out, I'm being sued, I had to ask my parents for money. I was like, hey, so I got
Yeah.
to pay a lawyer and I need help because I don't have money for this. Like, has the potential to be really, really expensive. And it was, and then it went away and it was fine. And then, same thing with my gym, right? We closed the gym. It's like, well, what are you going to do? I don't know. I don't know, but I'm going to
Mm,
figure it out because I figured it out before.
mm,
And what's the one thing that I've been able to prove to myself over and over is just how scrappy I can be and everybody can be, right? Like if you are willing to do it, you'll do it. You just have to choose. Like there is no other option. You don't get to have a plan B. There's a book called Burn the Boats. Like you literally have to burn the boats. You're like, this is it. We're doing it.
mm,
And you'll figure it out along the way. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've had through my journey of entrepreneurship is I don't know what the end destination is going to be, but I know it's going to be great. And we're just going to learn to enjoy the journey. And wherever we end up is where we end up. And there's a
mm.
lot about it I can't control. So I can just do my best and can control what I can control. And wherever we end up, no, that's where we'll be.
Yeah, I think scrappiness and understanding that everything happens exactly as it should is fundamental, isn't it? To
Yeah.
do you think that you can be a successful, and I'm going to be niche, like a mum in business, if you don't have the scrappiness, or actually you might not, you might have it, but actually identify as scrappy. Can you still be successful?
I don't think so. I don't actually think you can be an entrepreneur, like mom removed, without
Mm,
having scrappiness because a lot of business and succeeding in business isn't what, it's who. And a lot of finding the who requires you to be scrappy, right? You're sending emails, you're asking people for referrals, you're getting in the weeds. Like that is just part of it. And I think that you have to be resourceful. And like I equate scrappiness and being resourceful. It's kind of the same, right? Like if you're just sitting back and hoping that things are going to come your way, or you're like, well, I'm just going to post on Instagram and that'll be enough. Like, no, my friend, it is not. You have to be willing to get boots on the ground, knock on doors, ask for the favors, return favors, right? And build community, get yourself out there. Like, yeah, I think if you're not willing to be scrappy, be resourceful. And that doesn't always mean, when I think about in the context of the work that I do, right? Mentoring, that doesn't always mean hiring a mentor. It might not mean hiring a mentor. It might mean going and finding all the free YouTube videos you can or listening to all the podcast interviews that you can. Like the information is out there, the support is out there, help is out there. You just have to be willing to go and find it. And I think that's the piece of scrappiness that's required if you're just kind of sitting on your hands and hoping it's going to work out, which I've seen, right? I've seen that lots of times. I've had women in the past. I used to be a little less picky about who comes into my programs, and I've had women come into my programs and they're just not doing it. They're not
Hmm.
doing the work. They just are expecting that, well, it's going to happen. Well, no, like what is the action that you're doing? If your expectations and your actions aren't aligned, like there's nothing I can really do to help. And so I think for me, I love to work with people that are willing to take the action and willing to tap into their inner inner scrappy girl, wherever she is in there, and put her to work, because that's a big part of it for sure.
Mm. And it's just that, yeah, leaning into the resources and that believing that life doesn't just happen to you. You like you get to create it.
Yeah,
It's so
you're in
like
charge.
I don't know whether you remember becoming aware of that. I remember just thinking, oh, I can control. And I know you touched on talking about fun and energy about your business, and I feel like that mindset pass. When I know this, and that part of what I teach as well about how the thoughts and your feelings, not your feelings, don't have to identify and all of that. That's just the beginning of it. But then
Yeah.
when you go further down that mindset rabbit hole of brilliant. I mean, I could probably talk about mindset and thoughts and identity in that all day because I get such a thrill out of the awareness that when I see people become aware of something and how that dial switches. But going back to what you were saying about like fun and energy, I feel like they're very, I don't know how you feel, but like they're so closely knitted.
Yeah.
If your energy isn't, if you're not working and designing your life so that your energy and your fun is like a priority, then the thoughts and feelings and actions are going to be really tough. It's like it's all got to come
Mhm.
together at the same point.
Yeah, I agree with that fully. I think I'm a person that leans a little heavier on the strategy side, but I consider myself to be woo adjacent because
Mhm.
I love me some woo. We like the mindset piece is a huge part of it, right? Strategy is only going to get you so far in your
Mhm.
business, right? The doing is only going to get you so far. If you're a mom and an entrepreneur, like you are already predisposed to burnout. And
Mm.
burnout is a killer for an entrepreneur, right? If you burn out, you're done, right? Like that's
Yeah.
not good. Then you're having to take the space away from your business, you lose your momentum. Like there's so much that comes there. And so there is a big piece of being able to find joy and find fun. And when I talk about that, I don't mean it in the context of like, you need to get a hobby. You need to, go take pottery lessons,
Mm.
or, for me, it's you need to go ride a horse. Like that's might not be your version of fun, and that's okay. But it's like, where are you finding joy in the things that you're doing? And that could just be like, you know what, I get up. My idea of fun is getting up an hour before my kids and wearing my softest, coziest silk pajamas and sitting in the window with my tea and journaling. And that for me is fun. Or it might be, I take a bath with my fancy bath bombs or my like Epsom salts, and I have this lavender, that, and this, and that for me is fun. And I really encourage entrepreneurs to figure out what their fun is, right? Like removing the definitions of what other people say has to be fun. It's like, no, but you have to have that for you, because if you're not at least most of the time popping out of bed in the morning feeling excited about the work that you're doing, then things have to change. And
Yeah.
I will say that that's not the case for me. It hasn't been the case for me in every season. I mean, I broke my leg actually earlier this year.
Mm,
And so this year's been March, April, May, I spent in a cast. June, July, I spent learning how to walk again. And
mm,
now we're October by the time we're recording this and like just, still dealing with it, but way more myself than I ever was, certainly in the middle of this year. And so this year has actually been a really powerful reminder for me of like how grateful I am for the ability to do what I do, but
mm,
also to keep it fun because March, April, May were not fun. I was not choosing fun. I was choosing misery.
mm,
And that's because, a lot of the things I do for fun were taken from me. But it is really, at least temporarily taken from me. It is essential. It's essential to find ways to experience fun so that your energy can be in a place that you want to do the things in your business. You want to be scrappy. You want to show up. You have that fuel for you because for me, I'm an introvert. And so I get tired really easily. And I have 2 kids, right? That also need my energy. And I have to try to keep it as full as I can when I go through my days.
mm. I think like I am all on the strategy bandwagon as well. I bloody love strategy.
Love it.
And I love how I can work my energy and mindset into strategy or have a strategy
Mhm.
around those things.
Yeah.
And strategy is how you do things, isn't it? It's like the plan of action. And I find journaling, though I don't know why. I was trying to unpick this. I've got this issue with the word journaling. I don't
Oh,
know. Yeah, I say writing. And I was
right.
unpicking it the other day. I was like, why don't I like that word? But basically, it is the same thing. And again, getting up before the
Hey,
whole
semantics
house.
matter. Semantics matter. It's all good.
It's, well, I think that, and I don't know about you, but I really found another level when I started really committing to journaling writing. And
Mhm.
have you read The Morning Pages by
I
Julia
haven't, but
Cameron?
I'm gonna put it on my list.
So in that, it's called The Artist's Way. And she talks about the morning pages, which is just this ritual of every day of writing three A4 pages. And I found it when I was in a really sticky part of business. My mindset was just, I mean, a very long story, very short, that I had sort of been pushing all of the stuff that I experienced when I was little away by being a workaholic. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, as I was an entrepreneur, there's no gateway there of someone telling you what to do, and it just flooded me. So I had to like process it really quickly because it was impacting the business, but I was like, how can I do it, and I need to still work. So I found the morning pages, and it was just about clearing out those clouds in the morning so you can have a blue sky and actually get some clarity in your day. So I do the three A4 pages, and I was really committed to it, and I did it solidly every day for like 2 years, I think. Now I don't have to do it as often, but it was one of the best things I've ever done for my business. And for all of the people that I've told who are listening to do it, there's an element that people resist it because there's always that magic in the work that you're avoiding. But I'm really interested to know if that's like something that you really enjoy. Was there a tipping point for you to be like, ah, there's the magic? Like, do you
Yeah.
remember the process and that of how it leveled you up?
So I'm a person that has journaled on and off. I've got to read the morning pages. This sounds amazing. I love journaling or writing when I'm feeling in the seasons where I'm feeling stuck. And I'm a person that's done so much therapy, so many modalities, and like
Yeah.
dove into so many things that I know intrinsically, like when it's time to write. I'm like, I have to
Mm.
go write a thing. I have to go like just get these thoughts out of my head. And so I have found just releasing the things that go on, right? Like we tell ourselves so many stories
Yeah.
in our brain. And my brain works really fast. My clients, I'm always like, buckle up, guys. Like, something's come through. I gotta share this with you. And usually my clients are like, whoa, Laura, can we record this? Can we, I've got 10 pages of notes. And so, yeah, there's definitely something about writing that I find to be really just calming. And
Mm,
for me, sometimes where I struggle actually, and this is something that I have to work on, is creating space for me to write without distraction. And I think that's
mm,
something as a mom that I struggle with. So
hmm
I love to go, there's a Finnish spa, Nordic spa near me. So I'll go to the spa by myself and bring my journal and just write by myself for hours at the spa because I have to really force it. Like I really have to, and by force it, I mean like intentionally create that space.
hmm
But yeah, writing, journaling, just freeing thoughts, ideas is something that I found to be really powerful. And also in mentorship, right? I mean, I'm a mentor, I have a mentor, but even just having somebody to say, hey, I'm having this thought. What do you think? Or hey, I'm being mean to myself in this way. Or hey, the story I'm telling myself right now is this.
Mm.
Can you either tear it down, validate it, whatever it is that, I'm looking for? But I do think, in all of these modalities we're talking about, I think a lot of it is like freeing the things that are in our heads, right?
Hmm.
As entrepreneurs, moms, like there's so much stuff going on
Yeah.
in between the ears all the time. And yeah, we don't have to hold on to them ourselves.
No. And how, like, let's start talking about being a mum in business because
Sure.
love just well, it's just another level, I think. And as anyone else, because I think you're why, and this is in my opinion, my business, my second, I had a business before my son was born, but then the next business, this is my third business, the next one was born when I was on maternity leave. And I got through the first 3 months, and I was in a secondary school. I had the year maternity, and then I had a really traumatic birth, and then coming out, and I was starting to feel better. It was about Christmas time, and he was born in the September, and suddenly something just woke up, and I was like, oh my God, I've got like the passion back. But it just changed how, because he was there now. I didn't want to go back to that life, like, and I went back to work for like a year. It was crazy woman, just was breastfeeding still in the evening and the morning, as well as running the business still part time behind the scenes, doing a master's degree and being a full time assistant head teacher. Like absolute nutter. Um, I can't believe I still breastfed then though. This is the thing. It's just sort of like where I think that was when I realized there was this element of, and again, I know there's mums out there who are running their businesses that have this superhero complex that they're not worthy of the success they're creating unless they do it all of them all by themselves.
Yeah.
And I would where but how has being a mum enriched your business? Um, and made you a better entrepreneur? Because I just don't think though it is tougher, we have to flex and change. And how brilliant that, we can do whatever we want with our kids and we can stop and start and, whatever. But how do you feel it enriches who you are and the value that you give because you're a mum?
No, it's just such a great question. I think there's a couple things that you said there that I love. And the first is like capacity, right?
Mm,
It's like the incredible capacity that you hold as a woman. Like you feel like, I think about my early 20 something self, how cute she was, thinking she was tired and busy, And then I had children. It's like, no, sweetheart, like, let me tell you how busy it is. But it's so the capacity is incredible. The other thing that you mentioned is something else that I'm obsessed with. And this is this idea of like being a superhero. Like, I reject that. I don't want it.
yeah, no.
Don't want it. I do not. Am I wildly capable? Is my capacity
Hmm.
enormous? Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Do I want to be a superhero? Nope. I sure don't. I want to have other people around me to help me. And I reject this idea of needing to be a superhero because it will crush you.
yeah.
Nobody can do that. But to answer your question, just around how it's changed me, I made more money as an entrepreneur, as a mom than I ever did before.
Mm,
And the reason is I refuse to allow motherhood to be an excuse. And I'm going to say this with so much love. Yes, it is harder. It is absolutely harder. But there's no reason why motherhood should get in the way of you chasing your ambition and you
mm-mm.
achieving your dreams, right? And a lot of it goes back to that superhero thing, right? I do not have to be, I'll give you an example. It's the fun run at my daughter's school, or my daughter's school district has a fun run for grade 1s to 3. It's tomorrow. I forgot to register her. I didn't even know it existed until 3 days ago because I missed the email. My daughter is not happy with me because I missed it. She's not the only kid not going. Mom missed
Yeah,
it. Right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I missed it because I didn't see the email. I should have had somebody, should have tasked dad or somebody else with making sure he checks the email. I just didn't do it. Right. I can't do all of the things. And for that, I am sorry. And I will make it up to her in another way, but I'm not going to beat myself up about that for too long. Right. Like it happened. It is what it is. I can't be the superhero. But what I have learned is how to be really efficient in my business,
Mm,
how to actually focus on the tasks that move the needle in my business that only I can do,
Yeah.
and how to delegate the things that
Yeah.
I do not need to be doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things are low value tasks. A lot of those things are, things that aren't really needle movers that I don't need to have the ego to hold on to. This is a big
Yeah.
one, right? Some of those people pleasing tendencies that start to come through, I've just had to say bye bye to them. And so that's been a really big part of it. And I think one of the reasons why motherhood has actually catapulted me into being a more successful entrepreneur is it's forced me to do those things, right? And I can't function in a state of burnout or a state of chaos. And so I am quite literally have to delegate both in the home and in my business. I
Mm.
have to ask for help. It's not an option. I have to focus on the things that are actual needle movers for me. And
Mm.
so that's a lot of the work that I do with my clients is actually starting to pull apart. Okay, what are the things that only you can be doing in your business? What are the things that we should be delegating? How can we buy back your time, so to speak? How can we get you better support at home? What does that look like? And then how can we make you more efficient? Because you have to become wildly efficient.
Mm.
And again, it's not going to be perfect. You might miss the fun run registration, but you're going to do the things that actually matter and you'll get through it.
Yeah, I miss my son. There's no after school club on Wednesday, and then getting the call, Jackson, we're waiting for you to pick Jackson up. And I was like, there's an after school club there. No, shit, right, run.
You're like,
And then my
oops. Yeah.
mother-in-law's just rang me, and I'm like, I swear my father-in-law is supposed to be picking him up. I don't know. Like it's like I'm panicking now. I've just actually got to check. My people, yes, he does cancel just about clubs. It's like it was cancelled last week. But two things that came up when you were talking, and what I have, really working on, and I'm so much better than I was. Now I've got a team. It just makes people that they've come through my membership as well. So they really invested in what I do already. So that's really good. And they're just bloody brilliant. I just launched and I've just got so much energy and just it was gorgeous. And then my ideas, I just had so much capacity for my imagination. It was just wonderful. So big shout out to Susan Hannah. But I was doing I was playing a game. Like I'm not a gamer. I don't play games. I'm just reading all the time. I just read and write, or do my business. And but I found this game, and my son was watching me play it. He was like, "Why are you not using your power ups?" Because he loves Mario Kart. And I was like, "What do you mean?" He went, "They're just there. They're all just sitting there. You've not used them." He was like, "Is what you want to do it all on your own? You don't want to use your power ups?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm playing this game like I would before. Who doesn't use their power ups in Mario Kart?" So I was like, right, stop doing that. Use all of the help, as you know. And when
Yeah.
in this launch, I think it was so successful because I haven't launched for a while, but I literally told everybody that I could, how can you I cannot do I don't want to do any like drop-offs or pickups for Jackson because I'm not going to be present enough for him. I don't want to feel that guilt. It's only 1 week. I had the whole of August off. I'm having starting from Sunday, having 3 weeks off with him. I have a lot of time with him, still. So I don't feel guilty about that. But where are my power-ups? Who can I ask to help me? And then I had the real shift, and it's been in the last few months where energetics wise, in my messaging and my how I show up, I don't I can ask for more help because I'm not going to be that the taxi cab. Like, so the metaphor is, are you a Sex and the City fan?
Yeah.
Right. So
I'm a millennial.
I don't, I asked somebody the other day, they were like, I've never watched it. I was like, okay, like literally all my references are Friends or Sex in the City, so I don't like
No,
anyway.
I'm a millennial. Yep, got it.
So there's an episode where Charlotte says that he had his light on, and it's like that when two people have their light on, then everything works. It's like, and I always think that about me and my husband. We met, we had our light on, we were ready to settle down. Boom, it worked. And that's what it's like in business because I don't want to, no one wants to be that desperate Dan hanging outside the club going, get in my cab, get in my cab. It's $10, get in, get in. Like no one wants to be
Mm.
convinced to invest in you and your time. What about being the cab that just has to drive around? You're just showing up as your beautiful self, stepping into your magic, knowing who you are, having all this fun and this joy and relying on the power ups and just knowing what makes that business, that 1% of the business makes the most money, and that's your magic. How can you,
Yeah.
really step into that?
I love this idea of power ups. I'm going to borrow this analogy because it makes so much sense.
Thank
And
you,
it's,
Jackson Hill.
thank you, Jackson. You're brilliant. Children and their brilliance.
I know.
They're always amazing. But I think it's interesting because if you had asked me in February of this year, Laura, are you asking for help? I'd be like, yeah, I ask for help.
Yeah.
I totally ask for help. And then I broke my leg and I couldn't drive. And I have two small children that have to get to school and, and do all of the other things. And I was like, nope, you actually don't ask for help even close to the amount that you could be. And so I would just challenge anybody that's listening to like really assess like where are you not using your power ups or your help. Like there
Mm,
are probably a lot more people than you would think that are
mm,
willing to help you. And I don't have family close. So when I say I'm having to ask for help from like other mothers of two of my daughter's friends and my neighbors and people that I would normally never ask for help for, I hadn't ever asked before, but we're more than willing to be helpful, Hey,
mm.
can you pick up my daughter from school? You know, the school is 1 kilometer away from my house. It is not far. This friend, they live 2 streets over. Like, this is not an inconvenience. She's
Yeah.
already there picking up her kid. Our kids are buddies. It doesn't matter. And for whatever reason, it took me so long. I had to break my leg in order to actually ask this person for help who has been happy to assist. She's a stay-at-home mom. She volunteers at the school. Like that's what she's there for. She's there to be helpful. And so I would just say to anybody that's listening, that's like, yeah, no, I ask for help. Do you? Do you
Hmm.
really? Are you really asking for help? And it's little things, right? Like for me, during this year, it was, pick up and drop off with my kids. It was, I mean, for a while, it was, hey, can you drive me somewhere because I couldn't drive? Like grocery delivery, right? Like, what are the ways that you
Yeah.
can start making your life a lot more simple? And I was really forced into that this year. And I feel like I'm in a place now, even though I can drive, like I'm still asking for those power ups. I'm still tapping into those where I can. But it's easy to get into the habit of like wanting to bring it all back, right? Like even just this week, my husband's a firefighter. And so he had to go in for an extra shift, which happens from time to time. And I had a meeting that was scheduled at the same time that I would have to pick up my daughter because typically my husband would be home. And so I
Mm.
was like, okay, I'll move the meeting. And I was like, wait a second. I'm not going to move the meeting. I'll just text the mom. I'll just text the friend
Yeah,
and
yeah,
say,
yeah.
hey, you know what? I'll leave the door open. Can you pick her up? She's 7. She'll come in, she'll get herself a snack, and then, it'll be fine. And so I have to catch myself still in those moments where it's like, oh, yeah, I have help. I can ask for help, and that's okay. Because I know there's going to be a day that she'll come back and be like, hey, can you grab my kid for me? And I'll be like, yeah, absolutely. Because we need people, right? We need to be able to ask for that help. So
Mm,
that for me was a really big lesson this year. I was forced into it. And so I would just encourage anybody that's listening to really assess where you could be asking for more help
mm.
and, or where there are areas for you to maybe pay for some help. That could be grocery delivery, it could be a cleaner, it could be some meal prep, depending on where you're at, right? Where you're at, what your budget is. But yeah, you don't have to do it all. It's not
No.
fun. I reject being a superhero. No,
And
thanks.
putting a ceiling on the amount of help that you are willing to ask for puts a ceiling on your success. And I
Yeah.
mean, Superman had a sidekick, Captain
Right.
Marvel's got hers. Oh, has
They
he?
have a
No,
team.
Superman didn't, but he had Lois Lane.
I mean, there's a Superman movie about his dog that came
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Super Pets movie. That's what
Super
I was thinking
Pets.
of.
That was
Super
actually quite good.
Pets. It was a good movie,
Yeah.
but like everybody needs help.
Yeah.
Nobody like there's usually these superheroes get saved by somebody. In the movie, somebody steps in and helps them out in some capacity. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that there's this narrative that women, moms need to do it all. And we fall into these people pleasing tendencies that don't serve us. And then if you have a business on top of that, and now you're pleasing clients, depending on the nature of your work or your customers, or whatever it is, like that's a lot. That's a lot of people that you're serving all of the
Mm.
time. And if you're not taking any space to say, you know what? Actually, I don't want to keep this world up all by myself,
No.
Can someone else like hold some of this load for me? Just like hand them a couple of bags of whatever it is that's going on.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Like there are people that want to help you. And one of the pushbacks that I usually get when I start talking about this with my clients is like, what where can we delegate? Is that, I can't afford it. And so here's what I would say to that. if you're in a place in your business where you're working, 40, 50 hours a week and you are so burnt out that you are like at a place where you're just like, I can't do it all. I'm so burnt out. I can't do it all. And you cannot afford to outsource some tasks, then we need to have a conversation about what's going on in your business. Like what's happening, right? There's a fundamental business problem.
Yeah.
If you're working 40, 50 hours a week and you can't afford to hire somebody for 5 hours once a week, weekly to
Yeah.
do some of your admin tasks or to bring in a cleaner. Like I have questions about how efficient your business is, right? And
Hmm.
why you're in that place. And those are the times where, that's where people like me shine is becoming we're like, okay, like this shouldn't be happening. And so that's always my pushback to people. It's like, okay, if that's the reality, and I'm of the reality where I do have to pay for a lot of the help that I receive. And I've been, very fortunate
Mm.
to have successful businesses over the years, but I have to pay for childcare because I don't have family close. So anytime
Yeah.
I need someone to come and watch my kids, I'm paying for that.
Mm.
Grocery delivery, that's something I'm paying for. A cleaner, I pay for. And I understand that there's privilege with that, and I always want to acknowledge that. But if you are truly in a place where you're full time in your business, you're working 30, 40, 50 hours a week, you're so burnt out, but we don't have any funds for a little bit of support, then there's work to be done.
Mm. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I was thinking, should I ask something else? But then I was like, no, I've got another meeting in like 10 minutes and I could carry on talking to you for
I could go
ages.
on for a while,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. I
it's
loved
best that
it.
we.
Gorgeous. So before I ask you the 10-year question, where can people find you? What can they buy? How can they get in your world? What have you got?
So the best way to find me is on Instagram at It's Laura Sinclair. I also hang out on Threads at It's Laura Sinclair. I love Threads. It's my favorite platform ever right now. I have my podcast. It's called This Mother Means Business. So if you are a mom and an entrepreneur and you want to dive into some more conversations around that, make sure you check that out. And I also have my community. It's www.thismothermeansbusiness.com. You can learn more about our community. We have community connection calls. The women that are in my community are literally the coolest. And so if you listen to this episode and we're like, Laura seems cool, I could hang out with her, then you'll definitely love the women that are in my community. I attract the absolute best people. We do a monthly mastermind call where we get together and really dive into your business in small groups. We have a co-working every month, and then I bring in a guest expert on a range of topics. It could be business specific. Last month, we had somebody come in and talk to us, did some breath work because I think wellness is really important as a
Mm.
mom and entrepreneur. This month, we have someone coming in and talking about hiring and firing teams and team management and things like that. So that's at thismothermeansbusiness.com. Otherwise, at It's Laura Sinclair. That's where we can hang out. Come find me if you made it this far in the podcast. We are friends officially. So make sure you say hi.
I love that. So what do you know now that you wish you'd known 10 years ago?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want with your life. And I think back to I'll be 38 in January. So my 27, 28-year-old self. And I was just on the cusp of entrepreneurship. So this year will be 10 years as an entrepreneur. And the 10-year before version of me was like very much afraid of what was to come. I had no idea, right? I was still very much strapped to this life that was prescribed to me by my parents, by other people, what I thought was supposed to be done. And yeah, you can do whatever you want with your life. There's no one way.
Amazing. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Laura. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
See you later.